Hey, deserving listeners, 90 Day Fiancé, let's watch. My name is Dr. Kirk Honda. I'm a therapist and a professor, and I'm going to react as I watch the show.
Because your family, your
you.
talk.
When we
say something.
You
need to like speak up.
Shut
the up, dude.
You shut the
up. You shut the
I'm not sitting in the middle.
think it all the time now. Dude, come on.
I'm not sitting in the middle. Now.
What's good? What you gonna do, dude?
So I haven't been reacting much to this season. I think I'm on episode 7 or 8 or something. There wasn't much really to comment on. There were things that were happening, and maybe I could summarize everything that I've watched thus far. A lot of what I'm just going to call immaturity from a lot of people, a lot of triangulation. I've talked about that in previous episodes where Libby, Elizabeth, will go to her family and complain about Andrei, and then she will go to Andrei and complain about her family, and she complains about being caught in the middle because they are at odds with each other. So I think everyone is in the wrong. Everyone is coming from a place that I think I can kind of understand, but they're not communicating in an effective way. They're not owning their own feelings. They're not accommodating for other people. So there's just a lot of blame to go around, I think. Right now, we see a mild altercation, maybe it'll escalate, between the brother of Elizabeth and Andrei. And what else can I say? I will also say that the brother in particular, but also the dad, and maybe everyone in Libby's family, has been what is quintessential ugly Americans. They have been making fun of Moldova. When they landed in Moldova, they have all these questions, like, oh, we see kids playing at night. What's wrong with this country? And the food has to be up to snuff. They don't like things. I mean, they've been respectful as well, especially the dad. Elizabeth's dad's been pretty respectful of the family, of her father and that sort of thing. But there's been a fair amount of ugly Americanism that's been happening, and Elizabeth has been worried about it. From the beginning, Elizabeth is like, my family's not going to like this food because this food's a little weird. And my family's not going to like this venue because it's not up to their standards. And yeah, I mean, Americans, my goodness. I mean, if you're going to another country, how about you respect that country? How about you respect the fact that it's a different country that have different culture and it has a different food situation, and, expand your mind, get outside of Tampa once in a while. And they've been okay thus far. But the real conflict here is that the brother and the father feel very entitled to knowing about Andrei's past. They are determined, and they feel completely entitled to knowing everything about his past. They really want to know why he went to Ireland, why he moved from Moldova to Ireland, because in Ireland, or around that time, that's when he met Elizabeth. And I think, as a result of this, more of this conflict, they were drilling him because they thought that he was just out for a green card, which is another ugly Americanism that is often depicted on this show. That everyone obviously wants to cross the border, and that's why we have to put up all the stupid walls and everything. Instead of just thinking, well, maybe some people just move here to the United States, and they even talked about how when they first met, they were going to live in Ireland. They weren't going to come to the United States. And that really threw the father and the brother for a loop there, because they're like, wait, you were going to live in Ireland? No, you weren't. That can't be right. And that was upsetting to Andrei, of course, very insulting. He starts to swear at them. I think Andrei also feels emboldened throughout this season because they've been in Moldova. Andrei has been really struggling with power. He seems to really want that sort of power. He has a really hard time accommodating other people. And even though he really acts in a fairly equal or even submissive way to Elizabeth in a lot of times, I mean, I don't want to say submissive. I just want to say, like, he will listen. He'll do what she says a lot of times. But I think he's really been struggling with that. And now that he's in Moldova, he is posturing a lot. He's really laying into Elizabeth. Elizabeth is accommodating. Most of the time she's trying to be nice, but then she will prod sometimes as well, which I think has its roots in the fact that she's hurt by the way he treats her sometimes verbally. And there's just been a lot of things, and I didn't know what to react to. I just thought, oh, there's some ugly Americanism in there. There's further triangulation. They're debating this issue of who's in control. She got baptized, and she didn't like that because it was sort of sprung on her at the last minute. Andrei's family are pressuring her to be submissive like a proper woman should, so there's debates around that. There's a lot of talk. It's hard to know exactly what they're meaning precisely when they say those things, but a big message that they're trying to get Elizabeth to agree with is that Elizabeth needs to be submissive to him, and that when he barks at her and talks down to her, she has to listen. Now, the other thing we've seen is that the other Moldovan individuals here have not at least exhibited dominant behavior over women. Maybe it happens, but the friend or the brother of Andrei and his wife, when they talk, they seem to work together. He doesn't seem to dominate. The wife is free to talk when she wants to. Now, maybe it's more subtle than that. I don't know much about Moldovan culture. Comment below if you know more. But at any rate, Andrei's assertion that in my country we do it this way, maybe he's exaggerating that a little bit. I don't know. And the other thing is this is just for us men out there. Hey, men, listen to me. I know you're out there. If you have to constantly assert your manliness and your dominance and your alpha maleness, you're not an alpha male. I didn't get that. Someone else said that recently. It's like only beta males talk about alpha males. Only beta males think even about the concept of alpha males. True alpha males or true confident men don't think about those kinds of things. They just live their life, and they accommodate, and they listen, and they assert themselves, but they also will be accommodating to others, and they will allow other people to assert themselves because they are confident in themselves, and they don't need to constantly assert their dominance to cover up their low self-esteem. Now, why would Andrei have low self-esteem? I don't know. The father seems really nice. The mother seems really nice. It's hard to know what went wrong there. Now, they did go a little bit into Andrei's past, and the fact that the parents look nice, I know, does not mean anything. You can look nice and be terrible human beings behind closed doors. I'm not saying they are, but anyway. But Andrei and his friends did talk about some of their childhood. They essentially, the picture I'm getting is that their childhood was kind of rough, that there's a lot of crime, or at least not a lot of oversight of the children, and the children are kind of left to fend for themselves. And so I wonder what kind of traumas Andrei went through with that. I can imagine, I don't know, that maybe there were like mini gangs, not like formal gangs, but you had to be tough on the street to some extent to make sure that you didn't get victimized in some way. And I wonder if he has some kind of bullying traumas around that. I don't know. It's just speculative. The other thing that I didn't react to was that Andrei was demanding that they have an expensive wedding in Moldova right away. And Elizabeth is like, okay, I wish we could have it a little later in time, but I understand because of the religion and the baptism. I won't go into details, but they had to rush to Moldova to get married. And so a lot of Elizabeth's family couldn't be there because a lot of Elizabeth's family also are raising young children themselves, and traveling would be more difficult. Oh, another thing that we learned this season is that Andrei is staying home as a stay-at-home dad, which is great. And, it works out. They have a very young child, and she has a job, Elizabeth has a job, and from the sound of it, the two of them had a conversation away from the camera, and Elizabeth, I think the decision for her was like, well, my husband isn't working that much, and my job is more steady, and I kind of need to work, and I don't want him to be kind of sporadically working and have to put our child into daycare or something. So why doesn't he just stay home with the kid and I'll go to work, and then it's a win-win for everyone. And from the sound of it, the two of them had agreed on that, and they were both okay with that. But it also sounds like Elizabeth has been kind of bothered by it a little bit. She keeps saying this phrase of, that isn't the real him. He's the sort of person who wants to get out there and work. Well, is it the real him? Maybe the real him is a stay-at-home dad. I mean, he seems to be taking to it pretty well. But, she can have her preference. She can say like, well, I would like both of us to work so we can get ahead, or I would like you to work for a while so I could stay home with the kid. I don't know. It's perfectly fine for her to have that. But then during a dinner, which I didn't show, in the clip, she kind of sprung that on him.
I'm not sitting in the
You're
middle.
gonna it out outside now. Outside now.
Dude.
Come on.
I don't give a dude.
I'm not
What's good?
sitting in
What's
the
good?
middle.
Good.
Now.
Get outside.
What's good? Get out of here, dude. What you gonna do?
Stop
What you gonna
it!
do?
Stop! Babe, sit down. Stop! Charlie, stop!
In America, we do what the we want and we say what
Take it outside.
So, did you just hear what he said? In America, we do what the F we want, and we say what the F we want. I mean, it really doesn't get any more ugly American than that. What are you saying, dude? In America, you're going to fly the flag? I get to go to other countries and verbally abuse people and I get to do whatever I want, wherever I want. It's stuff like this where I just want to hide in shame as an American, really. It's just shameful.
Tomorrow, everything's gonna be fine. Let's close.
are y'all protecting this dude?
Yeah, of course. He's my friend. Why not?
He's our friend.
Are you okay with the way he got up and tried to beat my son up? We just don't do that in America. We treat people with respect that are our guests in our country.
What? We Americans, all of us, all 350 million of us, we treat foreigners with respect. What? Do you watch the news? Do you look at yourself in the mirror? Do you watch 90 Day Fiancé? We do not treat anyone with respect, particularly people from other countries, particularly people from other cultures. We don't treat as a whole, we don't treat anyone with respect. What are you talking about? And then for him to say that, the father to say, we treat people with respect. They, from the start, have been on Andrei's case. They've been assuming that he's only here for a green card. They've been invading his life about him getting a job. Now, if they have concerns, that's fine. But to say that when foreigners come to the United States, we always treat them with respect. I mean, I don't know what to say about that. That's just silly. Now, Andrei is to blame as well. Elizabeth said it earlier. I don't know if I included the clip. She's just like, both my family and Andrei are all not behaving okay. They're all hotheads. They all need to stop.
Whatever.
That's all you have to say?
Not true.
What are you talking about?
You're a hothead just as he is. That's why you guys are fighting.
Okay, so Elizabeth is like, whatever. You're both to blame for this. Yeah. Now, I will kind of commend the father. I mean, it looked like during the fight, the father wasn't getting involved. This whole thing is just, it's hard to watch. It seems completely unnecessary. What's the point in any of this? If we sat the brother down and said, what's your mission here? I'm pretty sure, and they've had these interviews with him. I didn't show the clips, but he's essentially like, I'm here to make sure that my sister is going to marry a good man. Well, and Elizabeth even said this, we're already married, pal. What are you talking about? We're already married. We have a kid. You're here to do what? You're here to make sure that he's a good guy? What if you determine he's not a good guy? What does that matter? What are you going to do? Like, force me to divorce him? Stop it. I'm married. He's the father of my children, of my child. What's your mission? Okay, so he's on a mission to help his sister. His sister doesn't want that help. So what's the mission? Is it some sort of American exceptionalism ideal in his head of just like, I'm going to prove that America is great again, and I'm going to go to Moldova and I'm going to assert that all over the place? I don't know. That seems like a long shot, but could be a factor. Is it that I just hate Andrei as a man or a foreigner or something, and I want to humiliate him? Because a lot of the questions that they've been asking is they've been trying to figure out why he left Moldova. And another thing I didn't talk about was apparently Andrei, before he left for Ireland in Moldova, he was a detective. And the two of them, the father and the brother, laughed out loud. They're like, you were a detective? What? And even with the friends, they were like, so what's the deal? He wasn't a detective, was he? And their friends are like, yeah, he was a police officer. And they just can't compute that in their mind. And this is another ugly Americanism that's often on the show as well, that when people just go to another country, the industries in that country have a completely different set of requirements in terms of getting into those careers, right? If the brother were to move to Moldova, it would probably take him a while to get a job. It would take him a while to get the skill set necessary to prove to the industries in that area to get a job. There's this notion that when people come to the United States and they have a hard time getting a job, or they take a job that is perhaps below their education level, that it's because they're deadbeats or they're, lazy or something. When in fact they could have doctorate degrees in their home country, but it just doesn't translate well into another society in terms of the industry. So in their head, they're like, wait, he had a respectable detective job in Moldova? That doesn't make any sense. And then they're really trying to figure out why he went to Ireland. What's the difference? And Andrei is to blame for this as well, because he keeps evading very obviously the question. And I think maybe he met Elizabeth while he lived in Moldova, and he went to Ireland because it was closer to the United States, and so Elizabeth could visit him more often or something. I don't know. There was some understandable reason, I can't remember what it was, that the reason why Andrei left Moldova and went to Ireland. So instead of Andrei just saying that, just being like, well, here's what happened. Some of this was my fault. Some of it was this other issue. But it all worked out in the end because I met Elizabeth and now we have a kid and everything's fine. Instead of just telling the story, which I don't think is disgraceful in any way, he keeps evading it. And so the brother and the father are like, oh, there's something behind this. We got to figure it out. And so now they're not entitled to that information. No one's entitled to information, especially in this situation. You're not, as a father, you're not entitled to your daughter's husband's past, every detail, right? And as a brother in particular, you're a brother-in-law, you're not entitled to someone's past. They have this sense of entitlement, like, well, I'm going to find out and I'm going to get this information because I'm going to, I don't know what's happening. Let's continue watching.
Questions, we can ask questions, but it's like some kind of cultural difference, a little bit of that.
But Radu, if you ask questions and you get a response like that, wouldn't that raise red flags and as a father?
Where are you going?
Like I said, I say what I want and do what I want, and if you want to fight me, let's do it. I don't give a let's do it.
Like I said, I say what I want and I do what I want, and if you want to fight me, then let's do it. I mean, how old is this guy? That is something that a 13-year-old says. I say what I want and I do what I want, and I don't know. Now, I don't know this guy. We haven't seen much of him. I'm guessing if I knew him, I would have a compassionate conceptualization of what's going on here, what he's being triggered. Is he trying to prove his loyalty to his dad? I mean, I'm really just shooting in the dark. Is he trying to impress the cameras? Does he have massive low self-esteem and he needs to overcome it by putting on this show for people? Does he hate his sister? Does he feel protective of his sister? Does he feel like it's his job to attack Andrei because the family is definitely against Andrei in a lot of ways? And does he feel like it's his job to voice all those concerns? I don't know. I have no idea because we haven't seen much of him. But I just want to rewind that. Sometimes this show is accidentally funny. I just want to listen to what he just said.
I say what I want and do what I want, and if you want to fight me, let's do it. I don't give a let's do it. You don't scare me, dude. When we're trying to talk to his friends and everybody to learn more about him, oh, shut up, don't say nothing. And his friends fall in line. They're like, oh, okay, yeah, we're not gonna say anything. That's my friend. Like those dudes are punks too. Come on.
Oh, yeah. I see why y'all watch the show. It certainly is entertaining. So, okay, yeah, he in his mind, he's just asking questions. That's not what you were doing. You were asking with intent to get negative information on Andrei so you could shame him. Yay for me. Who cares? And then the friends, I don't know if I showed that clip. They're like, well, this is on you because you were asking the question over and over and over again, and people weren't giving you the information you wanted, apparently, and you were provoking Andrei, and you were participating, and this is all your fault. His response to that is, I do what I want, I say what I want, Americans do what they want, Americans say what they want. And I don't know if I want to get into this, but we might be able to laugh at that, like, oh, it's kind of funny that this ugly American is saying, Americans do what they want, Americans say that what they want. Well, for some cultures and some groups of people and some eras of history, that was not a joke for them. Americans have been, and other colonial powers, have been committing genocide, invading, colonializing, creating all sorts of trouble for local peoples, still exploiting. So this attitude is not just the joke for us on this show. It is something really quite serious. He's not responsible for that. I don't think. I don't know what his job is. But we as Americans are collectively. Let's just keep that in mind. I'm sure y'all know that when we are voting for our politicians and pressuring them to do certain things that are socially just.
Like,
I got
us
legitimate
talking?
concerns.
I'm not welcome at the table if you're talking.
No.
Yeah, I will sit here all day.
Nope.
I will sit here all day and talk.
You
Okay,
have to just
come
like,
on.
Sit here all
Let's
day
go.
and talk.
Come on.
now you're speaking.
Let's go.
Let them live.
Let's go.
Let them live.
I'm not going
I'm
anywhere.
not going to sit here and listen to you fight with my family. Okay?
I mean, we've seen other scenes like this on this show before, but this one really takes the cake. I mean, the amount of childishness and toxic masculinity. You could teach an entire college course just on this scene regarding toxic masculinity. I mean, it is just filled to the brim with ridiculousness. The posturing, I'm not going to back down because that makes me not a man. What are they even fighting about? What would it take for the fight to end at this point? I don't think they even know why they're fighting anymore. They're like fifth graders on the playground. They are going to Moldova to get married a second time. They're already married. They have a kid. Things seem to be working out okay. Andrei is a stay-at-home dad. Elizabeth is working. Things are working out fine. Andrei doesn't get along with the family very much. I don't think they hang out with the family very often. Okay, fine. It's all good. They go to Moldova to get married a second time, to get baptized, have the child baptized, and they invite the family. The father and the brother comes, and the father and the brother have a mission. They want to find out this information. When you just look at the landscape, there's nothing inherently conflictual about the situation, but they just create it. Now, I do want to point out that Elizabeth, I think, is partly to blame because she triangulated a lot. Now, in this situation, I don't think she's to blame at all, but I think the build up to this, I think she plays a role because when she would go to the family, she would complain about Andrei a lot and really pump them with a lot of negative information about Andrei. And when she would go to Andrei, she would pump him with a lot of negative information, particularly about the dad. And so that, fanned the flames, and here we are. But yeah, this is, what I was going to say is we've seen other scenes like this on 90 Day Fiancé, but this one has got to be one of the, I don't know, what do I want to say? The most toxic, the most sillily toxic. Is that a word?
Stop calling my brother fat.
I would him up so easily.
They came here for us, and you're mistreating them.
wedding.
Don't get in my face.
It's your wedding.
Get in my face, and I'm walking away.
It's not gonna work.
Back up.
Where's the driver? Let's get the out. Where is it? Come on, let's go. We need to go. Come on, Lib.
All right, well, that does it for that episode of Psychology in Seattle. Everyone out there, please take care of yourself because you deserve it. You really, really do.